Hello, everybody. Happy Aloha Friday. How are we doing? How was your week? We'd love to know in the comments. And before I introduce my special guest that I have with me here today, who I'm not going to lie, is the master of messaging and is incredible at what he does. So hold on to your hats, get your pen, get your papers, because you're definitely going to want to make some notes because he is going to be just totally blowing your mind, shifting your perspective, giving you some major insights into maybe what's been happening and what's not been happening in your business. But before I introduce Brandon, I will introduce myself if we haven't met yet. And if we have, hello. So great to see you all. And so a little bit about me. My name is Megan Nolan, and I am so honored to help other high achieving women go from being physically drained and in pain, getting rid of your neck and shoulder tension so that you can truly be the vibrant warrior woman that you are and look and feel 10 years younger. And while I can help you to use the tools of yoga to do that, I know that there is so much more to you as a beautiful being and as a business owner. And that's why it's such an honor for me to bring in special guests to share their magic, to share their wisdom, to share golden nuggets with you to help you really accelerate your business and your growth. And so my special guest today, I'm not gonna lie, I'm just going to tell you guys this. He's one of my coaches, and we've spoken before. I've received incredible coaching from him before, but I haven't had the chance to interview him before. So if I act extra ridiculous, you'll know why. And yes, he can totally hear me right now, and he's laughing. So let me introduce Brandon. All right. So Brandon Lucero is an online marketing expert, a serial entrepreneur, and the host of the New Generation Entrepreneur podcast. He teaches entrepreneurs how to build a fulfilling and profitable business by helping you master your messaging, remember who you are, and use the psychology of selling for good. So let me bring him out here on the virtual stage. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome. Hi.
Hey, glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. So great to have you here. So I'm going to hand you the mic here in just a second and let you know I'm just going to pop and make sure that the tech is all happening. So let's get started with the question. Mm-hmm. What is it in your words that you do and how do you serve people?
Yeah, so the easy answer is I help entrepreneurs with their messaging. And so the next question after that is like, well, Brandon, what is messaging? Plain and simple, it is the communication that you have inside of your brand. Most people will focus on things like content. It's like, oh, I need to do content and I need to just like put content out there and build an audience with my content. But what they don't realize is that the topics you're choosing, how you're communicating, what you're saying, how you're putting the titles together, all of that stuff is messaging. And messaging needs to come first before we ever start to put out any content. So most of the time when you're having like content problems or problems with people showing up to your webinars or converting, and you're just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm really good at what I do. I know my stuff, but I just can't seem to get people to pay attention to me or buy from me or show up. That's a messaging problem. And ironically, it's the foundation of everything, but it's also sometimes one of the last things that people focus on because most people don't tell them like, hey, get your messaging figured out. They just say like, go put out content. So we help with messaging, and that transforms into helping people create really powerful content as well. Because we talk about here's the message and then here's how to deliver it. But again, we don't focus on content first. We focus on messaging first. And really that's communication.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And thank you for clarifying that. So we have lots of great people here joining us from Florida, from the UK, oh my goodness, and Arizona. Fabulous. So as we go along, if you have any questions for Brandon or about anything that he's sharing, please put them in the comments below. So we have already people saying, hi, yes, I'm going to be extra ridiculous, Sherry. You got it. Susie, hello, darling. So important to get your comms right before you even think to PR or promote yourself. Exactly. It's like a website and copy first, because somehow the shop window takes precedence before the shop content. Exactly. That's a good analogy, right? Because we're like, hello, here I am. But if we don't know what we're saying or why we're saying it or what we're even offering to people, then it's just diluted diluted and confusing. So
100%.
typos, that's okay. We all know about the typos. It's all
I'm the
good.
typo king, so I'm used to them.
Right. I was thinking that the other day when I was going through the content, I was like, I wonder if they're starting to like put extra in there just to see if people notice.
No, definitely not intentional. Taylor, my integrator, hates it, but that's just how we
Okay.
roll. I remember like when I first got started, I'm like, I'm going to be the first $1 million business owner online who just doesn't care about typos. Like that's just going to be me. And we did it.
Yeah, you did it. I love
At
that.
least
And
that
now
I'm
it's
aware of.
perfect. And now it's part of your brand, right? Because we all know it's there and we're like, oh, it's fine. No big deal. No big deal.
It's like a core value of our business at this point.
Right. Fun, integrity, all of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. So let us know how you doing. How was your week? And so we're talking with Brandon. We're talking about the difference between messaging and content. And he was just explaining what he actually does and how important this is for us as business owners, brick and mortar, online business owners. So you already dropped into it a little bit, but there's people that have just joining us now. So how does somebody know if they need your help?
Yeah, a great question. So basically, if you're an online business owner and you've been putting out content and you're not getting any traction, you feel really unheard, even though you know the content's really good, you know you're really good at what you do, but there's just no traction on it. And when I say traction, I mean like maybe you're getting some views, maybe not, but there's no engagement, there's no comments, like no one's following your call to actions. When you run an ad, they're not really converting. And if they are, you're getting people like showing up to your webinar or registered for the webinar. Maybe they're not showing up all the way, and then they're definitely not converting. Those are all messaging problems. Also, if you feel like you're just like in a sea of other people, or you feel like you're not even clear on what you should be saying or how to say it, and you're just like, cool, I have this skill, but I don't know how to describe it to people in a way that makes sense, you have some messaging problems. And so some of the big problems that I see are when people, well, first and foremost, one of the best ways to identify if you have a messaging problem is if you haven't seen significant growth in your audience or your sales in the last 3 months, or probably maybe even longer. So maybe you're stuck at zero, maybe you're experiencing some kind of plateau, and you have for the last 3 months. And there might be a little bit of growth, but I'm talking significant growth. If you haven't been experiencing that, then you have a messaging problem. And usually what causes that is that your content, 70% of your content is focused on educational content, how-to tutorials. Almost 100% of your educational content is done as step-by-step or how-to or tutorials. And there's other ways to educate. You know, there's like, if we look at TED Talks, great educational content that's engaging, pulls people in. It's different. It shifts perspectives. They're not tutorials. When we look at like the best-selling books that help you transform your life or your business or like whatever, you know, like nonfiction books, they're usually not just giant tutorials. They're doing something else. They're communicating, they're teaching, they're educating, but they're not doing tutorials. So this isn't to say we shouldn't be doing tutorials. I'm just saying we need to change up and give a variety of different things. And so those are some of the ways to identify if you've been having some issues. Some other causes of this might be you survey your audience and you give your audience everything they want. The problem with that is you actually start to lose your message. You start to lose what you stand for. You start to lose clarity on what you actually do for people because you're letting the external world completely control your content, completely control your message. So what I always tell people is let's figure out what problems you solve first. That's going to lead us to the transformation. Let's figure out what your message is. Let's figure out who you are. And then once we understand the message, we let the message attract everyone else. It's not the opposite. It's not like we look at everyone else and what do they want? We give it to them because we lose ourselves. We lose our message. We lose our brand. So when we look at like Gary Vaynerchuk, Brene Brown, Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, David Goggins, we look at all those people. They're not asking the external world what they want. They're crafting a message that's them, that's powerful, that's clear on the transformation, and they create content that then lets the content become the light that attracts everyone else. So you have to understand the message, the identities, the beliefs, the values that you hold will bring in the people that align with that. And the second we lose ourselves and lose our values and lose our message and lose our own transformation, we just attract a generalized audience if we attract anyone at all. And so what we help people do is get clear on all of those things so that when you put out content, it stands out, it's powerful, it hits people automatically. Like they don't have to think about whether or not they like it. They just instantly go, I freaking love this person and I love what they stand for and I love their teachings. Like that's an automated response you get. So we help people start to craft some of those things. So if you've been making any of those mistakes that I just kind of went through, well, good news, I can show you how to fix all that stuff. But that's basically what leads to a lot of the problems that people are experiencing with content right now.
Mm. Oh my goodness. So good. So good. Okay. So first of all, if you make any of those mistakes that Brandon just shared, give us a yes in the comments. Like just put your hand up and wave it around because it's okay. Don't feel bad about it because we've all done it, right? It's a process, it's an evolution. And so that's why it's so important that you're here and that you're learning from Brandon. And so I really want to go back to something that you said that was so important of knowing ourselves. And coming from that place of authenticity and connection to our own core values and really coming from that integrity. And it kind of speaks to one of Susie had a question here of, so how do you get to the core of a person's messaging? Well, it's your message, right? You just said like, you are the light that's attracting people. Right. And she also said, it's like people hear you, but they're not listening. So it's not landing deep enough for them to take action. And if we're putting out a lot of how-to or tutorial stuff or entertainment, it can be, as she said, kind of an edutainment sort of thing. So I love this. And so, yes. Okay.
Can I address her question?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So here's kind of the biggest problem that's happening right now is that, well, I mean, I'll use like an analogy. So if you're at a grocery store, like let's say you wanted to open up a grocery store, that's your brand, and you're in a town of like 10,000 people and there's no grocery store and you're the first one there, you're going to do really well because people need to eat and you're the only option. And you could have awful customer service. You cannot listen to them. You can treat them poorly. Like they're still going to come back because they need to eat. And so what starts to happen over time is like when grocery store number 2 and number 3 come in, well, you start to lose business because there's the competition now. And so what's happening right now is that there's so many online business owners starting and so many experts coming up that what used to work 5-10 years ago doesn't really work anymore. So when we focus just on like how-to titles, if you're a weight loss coach, if you put out a video that says how to lose 10 pounds, well, instead of being 15 years ago, you may have been the only video titled how to lose 10 pounds. So people are going to pay attention to you. Now there's probably literally like 1,000 videos titled how to lose 10 pounds. If you just go to YouTube and you search, so you start to blend in. So what people do is like, well, what do you want? And then they come up with another title that blends in with another 10,000 videos. And that process goes over and over and over again. They're like, why aren't people paying attention to me? It's because the audience doesn't see how you're any different than anybody else. Mm-hmm. So what I say is like, great, let's do the video titled how to lose 10 pounds, but let's be a little more strategic about it. Instead of just titling it how everyone is, let's look at your identity. Let's look at who you want to serve. Okay, great. You're a weight loss coach, but you're a stay-at-home mom and you want to work with stay-at-home moms. Why don't we put your identity in the title? So how stay-at-home moms can lose 10 pounds. Well, guess what? Now we're different. Now the title is going to stand out. And now what happens is when a stay-at-home mom is researching how to lose 10 pounds and they see 1,000 videos titled how to lose 10 pounds, but one of them has their identity in it, well, they're going to automatically be drawn to that and pay attention to it. And guess what? You're standing out because you incorporated more of who you are. And now you're attracting people who are more like you. And so the first step to this is actually getting very clear on your identities and the identities of who you want to attract. And then you just start using those identities in your messaging. You use it in your titles, you use it all over the place. Now we can also go, and we will go into things like different beliefs that you might have that you also want your audience to have. And what starts to happen is the more you integrate who you are into the transformation you bring, and you put that in your messaging and your content, what starts to happen is you stand out because of who you are and the transformation. But the most beautiful part about this is you attract people that are just like you. And if you can't get traction right now, I can promise you, you haven't been strategic or intentionally using identities, core values, or beliefs in your messaging. And you probably feel like you're attracting the wrong people. It's because you haven't used the language and communication to automatically get those people to pay attention to you. And this is what I'm saying is we want you to be the light. So for me, I talk about being a parent. I don't necessarily want to attract parents. I'm not just looking for parent entrepreneurs, but I incorporate that a little bit because it shows my heart. It shows where my passion is. It shows my part of my purpose. But I do use the words change a lot to attract change makers. I do use the word entrepreneur to attract entrepreneurs. And you'll very rarely ever see me use a very bland title like how to create engaging videos. It might be something like how entrepreneurs create engaging videos without using how-to tutorials. And so now I'm incorporating things like do it without these pain points that you have or these things you don't like. So we just get very strategic. And now I forgot what the original question was, but I think it was something along the lines of how do we start to incorporate more of us into the brand and stand out? That's basically the first step is like, let's look at our beliefs, our identities, our core values, and how do we integrate that into at least the titles? And then that's really step one, because we need to do three things. We need to get eyeballs on us. We need to keep the eyeballs on us. And then we need to create demand while the eyeballs are on us. So what that will do is it'll get more eyeballs on you. And then when you learn how to communicate properly, and then you learn how to create demand, we get this trifecta of where we get really effective content and more customers at the same time.
All of that making so much sense. And people are loving it over here. Let me just check in. So Susie, does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. So speaking of food, too many people are trying to feed people their shizzle rather than focusing their efforts on the hungry who actually have a need or appetite, as opposed to the ones you want to feed because you think they need your food, but not that they've said that you need it.
That's okay. That makes sense. But can I break it down
Please,
really simply? Okay.
I'm like, we got to chunk that up a little bit.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, as a business owner, we solve someone's problem, and that's what we do. And so if I ask you, name 3 specific problems that your audience is having right now, and you can't tell me that in 30 seconds, I already know you have a messaging problem. And the reason why is because most people will focus on the solution. So what happens with most people is they go, I'm going to create a webinar title. I'm going to create a piece of content. And they look at their solution. They look at the transformation they bring, and then they create messaging from there. And instead of looking at what's the problem that someone has, and let me talk to the problem. Okay. So let me give you an example. I help people with messaging, and I help people fix their content and things like that. I know my solution is messaging, but if I did a video titled how to master your messaging, that might work. It might not work. But what I'm doing is I'm creating something that originates from my solution. I'm creating something that's from where I am right now in my mind, not necessarily where the audience is at. Right now, the audience is at a problem. So if I crafted a video and off their problems, I might ask them, what's your problem? They go like, well, I can't create engaging content. I can't get people to pay attention. Okay, great. So instead of saying how to master your messaging, which is the solution, they might not even know messaging is the solution. So I wouldn't title that. What I would title is how to create engaging content so people pay attention to you over your competition. And essentially I would have the same content in the video, but I'm just using a completely different title that stems from the problem someone's having. So like they said, is like, you want to go after the hungry. Well, another way to say that is you want to go after people that actually have problems that you can solve. Right. And so wouldn't it make sense to create messaging that stems from problems rather than solutions? And it's a very small distinction, but it's a very powerful one. And when we start to embrace that, it opens up a world of messaging, because our communication is actually starting to meet our audience where they're at versus where we're at. And then we get to bring them on a journey to where we're at. Does that make sense?
100%. And yeah, absolutely. And it's an evolution, right? Because if we're over here telling them all of the goodness, for example, in my case of yoga, like it's going to help you feel more calm, have better sleep, this and that. And they're like, but my neck hurts, right. And it's like, that sounds great, but are you going to fix my neck? Right. And so really getting into that so that you can be the guide. And so that really leads to my next question, which is, of course, coming from where is the person now, and how can we begin to help them take those steps forward so that we can take them on the journey? And so what you've done, and which blew my mind the first time I heard you say this, and then I started to do the work to understand it myself, which I know is going to be blowing many of you out of the water here, is you help people recognize that we need not 1, but 2 ideal
Yeah.
client avatars, not
Yeah.
just the, make up this person. Oh, her name is Sarah and she has 2.5 kids and she eats this for breakfast and she reads this magazine, blah, 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 and we make up a fake person. So
Yeah.
from your point of view, based on how can we speak to somebody where we're at, can you explain these two different avatars
Sure.
that we get to dive into?
Yeah. So like you kind of touched on it, but the biggest mistake that people make is they come up with an avatar. And the way we've been taught inside the industry for so long is, okay, map them out. Like you said, give them a name, how much money they make, how many kids they have, what is their daily life. And then before we know it, we create an illusion. We create a fake person that's not real. They're not an actual real person. And that might help you. Like if you don't have an avatar, having a fake one probably going to give you a little bit more direction on who to talk to, but it's not going to take you to the depth that we need. And when we have a fake avatar and a generalized avatar, it leads to generalized messaging. And generalized messaging nowadays doesn't really work because there's so much competition. So we got to get to the depth. So what I always tell people is, first of all, we need to completely adjust and change how we look at avatars, number one. And number two, we need to quit thinking we have one, but we actually have two of them. So the first step is that most of us as course creators or service providers or program creators, we generally are giving someone or helping someone with a transformation we've gone through ourselves. Okay. So I would say like 80% of people are in that boat. Well, if you've gone through the transformation that you are now helping people with, well, guess what? The version of you before your transformation should be the avatar. So when you start to speak to your avatar, don't speak to a fake person, speak to the older version of you or from your past experience. What were your mistakes? What were your feelings? What were your emotions? What were the specific things that you did or tried? And then you use that as the copy and you use that as your messaging. And what starts to happen is when you start to speak from in so much detail of mistakes and pain points and emotions and thoughts and feelings, people start to go, oh my God, they're describing me. Because if you had the same those problems, I promise you that they're having the same problems, the same emotions. And when you get so specific, it forces their mind to go, oh, they're talking to me. They're literally describing what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you get them to automatically connect and pay attention to you. Now, at the same time, we need to create a demand gap. So what we want to do is we want to create what I call a future-paced hero. So I call it the struggling avatar, and then we create the future-paced hero. The future-paced hero is the version of you right now. So what are their desires? And again, don't look at like what you experience now. Look at what you wanted then that you now have. And to give you an example of this, when I was like broke and in debt and like spending years trying to build my business, I just wanted to be able to relax. I just wanted to be able to like have something that was working. I didn't need to make millions and millions. I just needed to make something that paid the bills and like gave me some free time. If I looked at my life now and I said, look, you guys could have a multi-million-dollar business and da 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 and all this stuff, they might be like, I don't even like, that's great, but I just really want to have my bills paid and I just want to relax a little bit. So if I said the future paced hero is someone who like has their bills paid, they're relaxed, and that's great for that's you. Like it could even take you to multi-millions, but at the end of the day, your pain just stops. People go like, oh, that sounds great. So it starts to change the language around when you focus on that. Now, what starts to happen is when they self-identify, oh my gosh, I'm the struggling avatar, and then they see the future-paced hero and want to become the future-paced hero, and they experience that in your content and your branding, well, what starts to happen is you create a demand gap. And you become the person that can bridge that gap for them. And so what starts to happen is you start to stand out, and then they come in and they start to experience your content, and then they realize there's a demand gap and that your solution can take them there. What starts to happen is you actually start to create demand within your brand. So people start to consume more and more of your content, hop on webinars. You start to use your struggling avatars. For me, it's the unheard entrepreneur. So every time I drop a mistake or a pain point, I say, that's the unheard entrepreneur. Over time, my audience starts going, oh, I'm the unheard entrepreneur. In fact, if you guys are making any of the mistakes that I talked about today, I know you're the unheard entrepreneur, because that's what happens to almost 99% of people that are stuck in that trap. And for me, the new generation entrepreneur is my future paced hero. So when people start to hear me talk, they self-identify, oh my gosh, I'm here, but I want to be over there. And so that's basically how we start to create demand.
And I love that the journey that you're taking people on. And I love that you from the future paced hero perspective, really speak to the true dreams and goals that they have from this current moment. Because
Yeah.
if it feels too far off, and like if they're in debt and they're struggling to just pay their bills, and they're like, yeah, that'd be great if I could make $1 million every year, but it's like, is that even possible for me? Yeah, right. Okay,
Right.
bye. And so you're creating this connection and relatability and an understanding. And so I really feel like that in and of itself really helps to draw people in, of like, he gets me. Oh my goodness, he totally knows.
Yeah, it builds connection, and it comes from a place of pure authenticity. Like it's just, you're just speaking from your own experience, from who you are at the core level, and you just start to create this amazing effect inside of messaging. There is one thing that I want to make sure I address though, which is I think one of the common mistakes that people make is they hear me talk and they're like, oh, this is great. And they try to put together the perfect video that encompasses everything I'm talking about. But one video, one line on your Instagram profile stating what you do, one ad, one email, like that's not going to change anything inside of your business. Messaging is an ecosystem, and people need to come into your ecosystem, and they're going to have to experience like a couple pieces of content from you to be able to fully grasp all of this. This isn't something that one video is going to solve. This is something that needs to be integrated into everything that you do. And as they come into your ecosystem, they start to experience all these messaging elements. And then it creates an effect within them, where they start to view you as a thought leader, someone who shifted their perspective, someone who connects with them, someone who gets them, someone who can also solve their problems. And you just start to get this effect where they want to work with you. They have a demand to work with you. They like you. You have rapport with them, and they like your message and what you stand for. And so basically, just kind of recap what we've talked about so far. We've talked about how you can start to get eyeballs on you, which is like changing the titles and things like that. And trust me, we're just scratching the surface on all of this stuff. So like I gave you guys like one little tip on how to do that, but there's a lot of different ways we can do that. But we talked about eyeballs on you. We just talked about demand creation, which again, we just touched the surface on it. But again, there's three things. There's eyeballs on you, keeping the eyeballs on you, and then creating demand. So do you mind if I talk about the middle piece? Like, how do we keep eyeballs on us?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So the other thing that people have to realize with messaging is that how you communicate it is extremely important. So just understanding what your message is and how it's different and who you are, that will help get the eyeballs on you. But we need to figure out the best way to communicate it. And here's an example I love using is, if my message, my authentic message in my household was, I want my son's room to be clean, I could look at that and go, hey, William, clean your room right now because I'm your dad and you're going to be in trouble and you need to do it now. Or I could communicate it as, hey, William, Superman cleaned his room in 5 minutes. Can you beat Superman? I'm way more likely for my message to land with the second way of how I said it. So we have to be very intentional with how we're communicating it. So just understanding your message by itself is not enough. Like some people can get lucky and just nail it the first time, but for most of us, we can't do that. It takes testing and tweaking and trying, and also just learning how to actually communicate to the way the mind processes information. And here's basically what happens. There's 4 phases that cause people to stay or leave inside of your content. Number 1, they experience it, right? So there's an experience that happens. Number 2, the second thing happens is an automated response is triggered, and the audience doesn't even know what's happening. Once that automated response happens, it triggers an emotion. That emotion either tells them, I'm happy, this is mind-blowing, this is intriguing, I'm bored, whatever. Whatever that emotion is, it causes them to leave or to stay. So we need to take people from A to Z. So if from first contact to customer, if they leave at any point in that journey, you did something that caused an automated response, that caused an emotion that you don't want them to have, that caused them to leave. So we have to change the experience. We change the experience they're having. They still have an automated response, but it changes the emotion that they're having. And a perfect example is this call right now. You've already had an automated response. You've probably gotten an emotion that's like, wow, this is interesting. This is not interesting. This is too confusing. This is, whatever. I like him. I don't like him. But you didn't think about it. You didn't have to sit down and go, do I like Brandon? Do I like what he's saying? let me logically think about this for a second. Let me create a checklist and
Mhm.
You didn't do any of that. It was you had an experience, which is you watching this. You had an automated response that like, wow, or whatever, that triggered an emotion. And if you're still here, that emotion caused you to stay. And so at any point from like first contact of them seeing your content show up in their newsfeed or whatever to becoming a customer, if they're leaving, it's because there's something happening in the experience. And in most cases, like 99% of the time, it's how we're communicating. We're not
Mm.
communicating clearly so that it triggers the automated emotional response that we want. Make sense?
Yes. Right? Let me see some of those emojis that you, because I know you're probably like, what? Holy
Yeah.
moly. And it's true. And so, yes, let us know the automated response that you're having right now. How is this landing for you? Those of you live, those of you watching replay, let us know. Are you just like, can you feel it in your gut? Like, oh, I've been making so many of these mistakes. I totally need to hear this. Help, help. I tell you, because it's a process, right? And you're speaking to that. It's an evolution, it's a refinement. Very unlikely that we're going to nail it right away. And as you've said, you've shared so many nuggets and insights here, and we can take this and just start to let it integrate a little bit, but know that there is so much more depth to this. And clearly Brandon has so much to share. And so I want to know from any of you if you have any questions about any of this. Okay, Susie says, what I was also getting at is that we can see that a person could benefit from our work or solutions, but if you can't put it on them, if they've not identified the need for it, because it feels like they're being put upon them. Okay. Yeah, maybe clarify that, Susie, to just, yes, really coming back to, we need to really be able to understand where our community is at and truly understand them on that deeper level so that we can really meet them where they're at, speak to them in a loving and compassionate way from a place of authenticity and knowing. And that comes from being in-depth understanding of our struggling avatar, which you said is a past version of ourselves. And so really diving deep and remembering that we have these insights. And if we're trying to go so wide and broad, it's not going to land for people. And so creating an emotional response is huge, right? Because that's how we relate. That's how we connect. And so I think for me that was a huge piece because, we don't have to think about it. We're not like reading books and be like, yeah, so this person is really quite wise about what they're saying. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this. We're emotional creatures, right? We're vibrational creatures, and this is how we relate to each other. So knowing what we can do to be able to go deeper with that. So I know that you have something incredible because obviously you're already very incredible and have given so much golden nuggets already. But can you tell us about what you have coming up if people are like, help, Brandon, help, I need help.
Yeah. So I'm just going to go out on a limb, and please trust me, this doesn't come from arrogance or ego, but we are putting on the biggest live messaging event of the year. I haven't personally seen anyone that's going to go as deep and as big as we are on this event. And it's completely free. So it's a free live 3-day experience where we're going to take you on a journey to start putting all of these pieces together. So for day one, I call it unlearning because I think there's multiple ways to add value in people's lives. And so many of us just focus on giving information. There's like 6 or 7 ways that I like to use to add value into people's lives. And one of them is unlearning, bringing awareness to things you're doing that you don't realize are causing problems. And sometimes just stopping those things is enough to like, see you take off. So the first day is going to be really a lot of that. Like, here's some of the things that are causing problems that you may not even realize. Day 2 is going to be all around messaging. So I said messaging is an ecosystem. It requires a lot of different elements working together. We're going to show you how to start putting your messaging together. Then on day 3, we're going to show you how to take that messaging and actually transform it into content that gets eyeballs, that gets engagement, that creates demand. And so by the end of these 3 days, you should at least know what to start doing to get your messaging and content fixed. And it's called Master Your Messaging, our 3-day live experience.
Awesome. And I just put the link in the comments below, and I'll put it up in the description here when we're off. And I know that in this community, you are so focused, you're so driven, you have your foot on the gas and you're like, yes, let's go. I have a mission. I want to accomplish it. But as you've learned today, you might actually also have your foot on the brake because you're like, rah, 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 rah. And what Brandon is sharing here is that what can we start to look at? Just a clear, honest reflection of, okay, how can you begin to recognize some of the mistakes that you're making? Oh, so Sherry says, when is the event? Brandon, when does it start?
It starts February 24th. And then each day there's a couple days in between. So we're not going to like go boom, 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 boom. So
Right.
it starts February 24th and then it will last. I think the third day is on the 6th or the 7th or something like that. But I know if you go to the link that you have, it'll show all the dates and times. Plus we'll have replays. So if you're like, oh, I don't know if I can make it, don't worry about it. We'll have replays available for you.
Perfect.
And then once you register, we also have a free Facebook group. I have coaches in there right now that will help you with a lot of this stuff as well. So, and again, it's all free. Like we're just here for the next couple of weeks to show up for you. I brought in my coaches. Like you don't have to pay anything to get this experience. And so yeah, when you register, make sure you join the Facebook group as well.
Absolutely. Okay, perfect. Sherry says, thank you so much. Beautiful. So anyone live or replay, please let us know if you have any questions for Brandon about anything that he shared or about the event coming up. She says, that sounds amazing. Yay. Yes. And believe me, it is. I had a great session with Katie. So she's one of Brandon's coaches the other day, and we got some amazing insights about struggling avatar and future paced hero. So really, really incredible stuff, as you can tell. And it's huge. This is a really big topic, right? And this is something that we often are like, okay, but I'm so good at what I do and I just want to tell the world. And you feel like you're standing there like, hello, can anyone hear me? Hello. If you can relate to that, get your name on the list. Because I tell you what, it's really going to not only just start to shift your perspective, give you some tools, give you some insights, give you some guidance, because this is a huge topic, right? And it's a hugely important topic for you to be able to go out and make the impact and the income that you're destined for. Is you need to get, as Brandon said, eyeballs on your stuff, keep it there, and create demand for your offer.
Yeah.
And this is really powerful stuff. So let's take people on the journey and learn how to do that. So yes, love it, love it. Okay, Sherry's in. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, Brandon, do you feel like there was anything that we didn't get to that you would like people to know before we sign off?
I think the biggest thing that you have to realize with messaging is that I'm not here to teach you guys a strategy. I'm not here to like, here's a marketing strategy. This is literally the foundation of anything. Every successful person, business, whatever, they're very clear on their messaging. They're very clear on the communication. They're very intentional and strategic with it. This is something that will transform not only the content that you have now, but for years to come. If you ever start another business, it'll help with that. And it may even help with communication with like your friends or your spouse or whatever. Like this is the core of everything. You'll never find a successful business that doesn't have this dialed in. And so what I really want you to realize is that this isn't a strategy. This is what makes strategies actually work. And so that's why you like maybe bought a course or you bought a whatever and just followed everyone's steps. Well, you may follow their steps, but what you're filling those steps up with is ultimately what makes it successful. And so that's what I want to help you do is like, no matter what strategy you're using, what platform you're using, how many times you want to post a week, it doesn't matter. I'm going to show you how to get everything dialed in so your foundation is solid. That way, any strategy, any platform that you use will be effective for you.
How incredible does that sound, everybody? Right? You're like, yes, please. Yes. When does it start? Let's go. Oh, and the really cool thing is actually, it can start because once you get signed up and you join the Facebook group that Brandon was speaking to, he's already done some other trainings in there, totally free also, and like loads of other Facebook lives. It's like you're already going to start to get some momentum and some clarity and some understanding. I know he has actually another one coming up next week too. So ahead of the Master Your Messaging event, which starts on February 24th, totally free, accessible, by replay if you can't make it live due to your time zone, busyness, whatever it is. So there are some tools for you to get started right away. Because if you're like me, you're like, I need to know now. Let's get started. Please help me now. Once you sign up, so the link is in the comments below, and it will also be in the description up above to get signed up for the workshop series that Master Your Messaging that starts on the 24th. There are some other amazing resources that you can start to take advantage of already. Again, totally free. So make sure to grab that. Thank you so much, everybody that's been here live, commenting. Again, if you have any questions for Brandon that come up after the fact, sign up, join the Facebook group. You can ask in there, or also just put them on the thread here and I will send them off to Brandon and his team so that you can get them answered. But the best way for you to do that would be to sign up and join the Facebook group, because you'll get direct feedback right away, or maybe not right away, but you'll get feedback and support for sure. And so thank you so much, Brandon. This has been really fun and hopefully eye-opening for everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, everybody, take some action, get signed up. We'll see you for the workshop series, Master Your Messaging. You now know how important it is. And now you have some info to help you get started. So you're so welcome, everybody. Thank you again, Brandon. And thank you, everybody, for being part of this incredible community. And it's such an honor to share these tools with you to help you to continue to empower yourself on your journey, on your mission to making your incredible impact in your life and your business. So take good care. Happy Aloha Friday. Have an amazing weekend. And we will see you all very soon. Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.